This is Boomer Life with Stirling Faux on AM 650.
Welcome back to the program. On this episode of Boomer Life, we're talking to our resident appliance expert. Jack McIver is back with us from McIver's Appliances in Vancouver. Jack, the theme that you indicated you wanted to use for today's program is Stop the Madness. Now, here comes a question. It be summarized. Selling feature. Here you go. The showrooms, practically plastic things, and it's for your and for the, and you're telling energy efficient could very well be another way of saying the madness.
Yes, well, I think it comes from the fact that the refrigerators, for instance, are only efficient as long as they're maintained properly.
Okay.
But no one seems the refrigerator is the big fridges that. But what happens as they're taking air in one side, cooling the coils, expelling it out the other side of the front, not the back, and that is where the problem starts to begin, because they're bringing in dust or dog hair or cat hair or whatever, and they plug up the entrance to where it's supposed to flow past the motor and out again. So as this gets thicker and thicker, the refrigerator gets less efficient, and so it's not an efficient refrigerator anymore.
Oh, because it's dirty and now it's working overtime.
And your refrigerator is now becoming a money sucker.
Okay.
Okay, so what can you do about that, and why don't you know about it? And I find that the salesman doesn't talk about that cleaning under the fridge necessarily to be done.
I've never heard it.
The delivery guy doesn't even know it's there. So who's going to do that? Well, Jack McIver walks into a customer's kitchen and looks at their fridge and says, "Do you ever vacuum under your fridge?" And they say, "No, we vacuum the back."
Yeah, they roll it out and get that part along the back wall.
Well, let me show you. And I pull the front panel off down at the bottom and say, there's about 4 pounds of lint in there, you know. So so the conversation goes on. I would vacuum it out for them, and then I would say, you know what? If you put vacuum under the fridge condenser once a year on your calendar, just put it on the calendar for next year, you'll be fine, and your fridge will be efficient, and you won't burn out your compressor.
So all you do once a year is vacuum, and that increases the energy efficiency, the actual energy efficiency of the fridge.
Keeps the energy efficiency.
And you know, and yet it's such a simple task, Jack. You would think that would be something, again, with this kind of energy efficient. You know, if we're thinking energy efficient, we're supposed to be sort of volunteering to be keen about that sort of thing. And I think if people just said, you know, it's absolutely critical to the energy efficiency of your fridge to just vacuum under the thing once a year, most of us would do that without much prompting.
And all Jack McIver's customers who are told that do that too.
Right. But most of us never been told.
Sometimes they're elderly people that can't do it. And we have a program in the store where we go out and vacuum them once a year for them. Okay. And that's on sometimes the big fridges, Sub-Zeros and things like that. But the appliance business as a whole is not interested in the appliances lasting a long time.
Right.
I don't think they care.
Well, it's as if it is, as you say, when you first started McIver's back in the 60s, and you say that every product that was made in that era is 4 to 5 times better than anything made in 2013. That would suggest that in terms of the appliance industry, the planned obsolescence has been adopted with great vigor. Because if they're making them to fall apart more so than they did 40 or 50 years ago, then that's what that is, and just as raw as it gets, right?
Yeah, and that's where the brainwashing worked.
Right.
The brainwashing did work.
Well, now it's all about stainless steel. It's all about cosmetics. It's all about how it looks with the granite countertops and the backsplashes and all of that appearance stuff. And is the brainwashing sort of got us to the point, Jack, where fine, it looks terrific, but that seems to be more important than how well it works, along with looking like it should be there?
Well, the thing is that style and designers rule the world, and the rest of the people, that are out to go purchasing things, it's hard for them in the larger stores to find any plain appliances. Mm-hmm. But we carry plain appliances, and we don't carry fancy appliances because all the fancy appliances are computerized and are troublesome. So I've decided to stay out of trouble, because I don't like trouble with customers. I like to sell them things that last.
Sure.
And you mentioned these appliances of yesteryear. The two products that we sell, the Speed Queen built washers and dryers and the Ariston dishwashers, they are built to the 60 standard.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Right.
If I could find more that were built to the 60 standards, I would really enjoy selling those too. But maybe someday somebody will start building them again.
Right. Well, that one can only hope. Now, in terms of the madness and coupling that with energy efficiency, now we've already talked about fridges and how a simple vacuum under the fridge once a year can actually make that thing the energy efficient appliance it was actually designed to be. What other sort of energy efficient equaling madness examples are there out there that you could give us today?
How about plastic vent hoods for dryers?
Okay.
Now, in the climate we have here, half the year we have wet and cool.
If we're lucky, half a year. Sometimes a lot more than that.
The vent hoods that are being sold in all the big box stores are plastic with screens on them so that they keep the birds out. Mm-hmm. The vent hoods that we sell or install when we do an installation are metal with a damper that closes when they're not being blown, and they don't plug up with lint. But the plastic ones plug right solid, and I've seen lint all the way back 2 or 3 feet into the house because the plastic vent hood with the screen on it had not worked for months.
Well, you're talking about the brainwashing of North American consumers. Our producer, Art Factora, has found a little snippet from the 60s, Jack, that perhaps you're talking about defective plastic planning with vent hoods, and I imagine there are even more examples. Art, have you got that? This goes back to The Graduate in, 1968. Listen to this.
I just want to say one word to you. Just one word.
Yes, sir.
Are you listening?
Yes, I am.
Plastics.
There you go. That's Dustin Hoffman as the young graduate, and some guy at a cocktail party giving him the big buzzword of the future. And back in the 60s, plastics, if you and I had invested in plastics in the 60s, we'd both be billionaires by now. But, it really has. That's where it began. Plastics were cool and innovative and new and synthetic and magic and all that stuff. And they do have their place. But that isn't necessarily everywhere. And there are places where plastic, particularly when it comes to being connected to appliances, are just plain wrong.
Well, it's wrong because venting the best venting is metal venting.
Okay, now this is off a dryer we're talking about now? Okay.
And for any other venting, because it's designed to warm up. So that when the venting warms up, it never plugs up. It just, the vapor carries the lint out.
Right.
So, but if you use anything other than metal, it's not going to work properly.
And the plastic, of course, we buy into that because, as you just said, it keeps the birds and the bugs and any other unwelcome creatures out of our house, and because of that screen, and that just makes perfect sense to us from a protect the house from unwanted visitors perspective, but it doesn't do a lick of good for us at all with respect to making that dryer work the way it was designed to work.
Yeah, but Stirling, with a damper that opens when it blows and closes, that performs the same function as keeping everything out.
Of course it does.
Nothing else can get in there.
Of course it does. But
and it keeps the cold air from going back in. These units don't have a, they're all kind of screened, and they're ramming that stuff into the marketplace, and it's the worst thing to have because the UV eats them up.
Right.
And you can have a metal vent hood last for 20, 30 years.
Sure. Now, talk to us a little bit about the location of a vent near a dryer. Is the idea, Jack, to have that vent to the outside as close, to have the dryer as close to the outside as possible, and the whole vent system be as short as possible? Because sometimes you look behind the dryer and there's a big plastic, cables or pipes that, the collapsible type, and it goes on and on and on and back and forth and back and forth. That's not particularly desirable, is it?
Well, it's because the people who installed it didn't have anything to cut it with, I guess.
Ah, pretty lame excuse, Jack. Now, let me stop you there, because there's a bit of a, and you've mentioned this a couple of times. When McIver sells an appliance, your guys go out and install it. You go to the showroom, you pick out what you want, you have a good chat with the sales rep, you get exactly what you want, and then some people from McIver's put it on a McIver's truck, take it to your place, and install it the way it was intended to be installed. When you go to a department store or any of these other competitors, they will chat you up like crazy in the sales room and the showroom, but then when it comes time to have that thing delivered, you'll notice it's not the truck from the place that you bought it, it's some cartage company, and the people who bring it in and install it in your house are not employees of the place where you bought the appliance. So if there's a problem with the installation, who's on the hook? The store you bought it from, or is it the people who delivered and installed the product in terms of liability?
Well, it can even be worse than that. You can have a contractor delivery people who don't install, and then you can pay another $200 or $300 to get the professional people who may or may not be professional to install them.
Right, right.
So
there's two steps possibly between the showroom.
There are a lot of two steps like that.
Okay.
Because if you want platinum installation, that's after gold delivery.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, how
your gold and platinum go to them. Yes.
Exactly. Now,
at McIver's, that doesn't happen. It's 1, 2, 3. We sell, we deliver, we remove, and we install. Take care of the venting. Even do gas dryers or whatever we sell, we install.
Okay. So when it comes to these, for example, now, the vents, you're saying that a lot of these plastic and screen combination vents are just, they're ineffective and they break down too quickly. When your guys put in a vent for a dryer from McIver's, I would assume they go with the good old-fashioned sturdy metal type that are going to last 25 years.
Yes, and that the reason is, what's the difference? $5 difference in the price.
Right.
$15 for the plastic one and $20 for the proper metal one.
Not enough to make a difference.
Well, it makes a big difference to the big box people who sell those products. They are bringing the garbage to our homes. Or we're going to there and bringing it to our homes. But it's garbage stuff to be used for venting.
And so when it comes time to, suppose now, someone's driving around listening to us, and they've decided not to buy the new house. They're going to renovate the existing one, keep the money a little closer to home, and maybe pick up a few new appliances, just spruce the joint up, make it livable for another few years. So they're out shopping. They're out in those places looking at appliances. And so what are the key things to watch for or listen for in the showroom when you're out there looking at possibilities? And what are the things that people are going to say to you about these products that you should be, oh, really? When they say things to you like what? What are they going to say that should cause you to go?
Well, I think a lot is said about energy efficiency.
Yes.
An awful lot is said, which is basically not as dramatic savings as that are talked about, because if you're taking out any good appliances that you've had, you might have been able to fix those up and not have the energy savings, but you'd have more value because they may even last longer than some of the products that are available today. I think again in selling, now we hear the salesman said that we can expect 5 to 7 years use out of the appliances, and then they'll say to me, "What do you think?" And I said, "They're probably right." Why is that? Well, it's because the standard was dropped of the manufacturing of them, so we now are forced to be involved with these products. So this situation isn't going to be changed until there's an awful lot of pressure from the consumer.
Sure.
And the only way the consumer could probably force them to do something is to stop buying products that are not working well. But everything's suppressed because the whole business is a monopoly.
All right, we'll talk about that, the logistics of that, and more on stopping the madness on this edition of Boomer Life here on AM 650. A pleasure to have Jack McIver in studio, and there's lots more still ahead. Stay with us.
It's all about the baby boomer lifestyle. Boomer Life on AM 650.